Good morning, viewers. A warm welcome. Sage here. You're watching 𝐿𝐴𝐚 TV live from Sydney. This is the Global Markets Roundup show, and in today's show we'll explore the latest updates from the equity, currency and commodity markets from across the globe. Let us first take a look at the US markets performance. Stocks, treasuries and other major markets were mixed Wednesday after July data showed that the US jobs growth slowed, but demand for services increased. All as Federal Reserve officials signalled a likely pullback in the market support. And the US private payrolls increased far less than expected in July, likely constrained by shortages of workers and raw materials. Employers added 330,000 jobs last month, and the ADP National Employment Report showed on Wednesday. MSCI's gauge of stocks across the globe shed 0.10%. And Wall Street's main indexes closed mostly lower on Wednesday, with the S&P 500 falling from a record high hit a day earlier as data signalled a sharp slowdown in jobs growth in July, while General Motors tracked its worst day in more than a year despite a record pre-tax profit. 9 of the 11 S&P indexes were lower, with industrials and energy both slipping as data showed US private payrolls increased far less than expected in July, likely constrained by shortages of workers and raw materials. The S&P 500 was down 0.46%, the Dow Jones fell by 0.92%, the Nasdaq Composite rose 0.13% and the small cap Russell 2000 was down 1.23%. According to a survey, the US economy added far fewer jobs in July than most economists expected. The data showed that 330,000 new jobs were added in the month, almost half the number previously anticipated. The Wall Street Journal reported, citing a research institute. And the report comes ahead of the Labor Department's July employment data this week. And on Wednesday, Richard Clarida, the Vice Chairman of the Federal Reserve, favoured an early rollback of the COVID-era monetary stimuli because of rising inflation. The policy was also aimed at creating more jobs, but it has produced mixed results so far. And 9 of the 11 critical segments of the S&P 500 saw losses. Energy and industrial stocks were the biggest losers, while communication and technology stocks saw modest gains. Automobile manufacturer General Motors on Wednesday reported a net income of $1.8 billion in the second quarter, against a loss of $0.8 billion in the year-ago quarter. In addition, it raised its full-year guidance to be between $11.5 and $13.5 billion, more than its previous prediction of $10 to $11 billion. However, General Motors declined 8.91% at the close, and financial services company Robinhood stock surged a 50.41% from the previous close. Robinhood made its debut in Nasdaq on July 29th. The 𝐊𝐴𝐚 Innovation ETF had purchased 89,622 Robinhood shares for around $4.2 billion on Tuesday. The 𝐊𝐴𝐚 Innovation ETF stock rose by 1.82% on Wednesday. In the crypto world, Coinbase Global increased by 4.55%, while Bitcoin and Ethereum rose 4.15% and 8.76% respectively. Let's take a look now at the bond market. 30-year Treasury bond yields were down 0.72%, while the 10-year bond yields rose 0.68%, and the US dollar futures index increased by 0.20%. So this was the latest from the US markets. Now it's time for a short break, but please stay tuned. When I come back, we'll be taking a look over the European and the Asian markets.
Tune in to get the latest information.
Whether it's about market movements or the currency graph,
sectoral coverage or industry news,
we cover it all on our news segments.
Be on top of the latest news
with 𝐿𝐴𝐚 TV.
Welcome back, viewers. Thanks for joining us. Sage here. You're watching 𝐿𝐴𝐚 TV live from Sydney. This is the Global Markets Roundup show. And let us now start with the European markets. European shares ended at fresh highs on Wednesday, with technology stocks hitting a 20-year peak, while optimism over the second quarter earnings season continued to feed into positive sentiments. The Pan-European Stock 600 index rose 0.6%, extending its record-setting run to a third day, and the German 10-year government bond yield slipped below the ECB's policy rate on Wednesday for the first time in over 6 months, but edged off those lows towards the close of trade as comments by a Fed policy maker weighed on the US Treasuries. And after a plunge in yields in July, borrowing costs have continued to fall across the Eurozone this month, and the German 10-year yield, the Eurozone benchmark, touched an end January low of 0.517% negative, falling below the European Central Bank's deposit rate. The London markets traded in a green zone after the release of the UK services data, and moreover the UK services sector had expanded more than the expectations during July 2021 as the adjusted IHS Markit CIPS UK Services Purchasing Managers Index came out to be 59.6 for July 2021. And the FTSE 100 listed Taylor Wimpey shares went up by about 1.91%. The house building company had reinstated the dividend and upgraded the annual guidance, boosted by a booming housing market. Financial services and asset management company Legal & General Group shares jumped by around 2.92%. The company had lifted the interim dividend driven by solid growth in the first half profits. And the giant automobile manufacturer Rolls-Royce had signed an agreement to sell Bergen Engines' medium-speed liquid fuel and gas engines business. Furthermore, the shares rose by around 1.48%. So this is how the European market performed. It is now time for another short break, but after the break we'll take a look at the Asian and the Australian stock markets. So stay tuned to 𝐊𝐶𝐴 TV. Property by 𝐊𝐶𝐴. Looking for a dream home? Well, that may sound easy, but it isn't. And from looking for a property that is the right fit for you in terms of cost and other factors, to zeroing down on the right mortgage plan, there are various aspects to consider. And for the latest lowdown on the property market, tune in on 𝐊𝐶𝐴 TV with me, Sage. I will give the latest updates on the property market as well as real estate stocks to help you make the right decision. Keep watching Property with 𝐊𝐶𝐴. Welcome back, viewers. Sage here. You're watching 𝐊𝐶𝐴 TV live from Sydney. This is the Global Markets Roundup show. Let's take a look at some of the Asian markets' performance, starting from the Japanese market. And Japanese shares dipped on Wednesday as concerns about the rapid spread of the Delta coronavirus variant kept investors on edge, while Toyota Motor succumbed to profit-taking after upbeat earnings. The Nikkei share average dipped 0.21%, while the broader topics fell 0.50%. Let's now take a look at China's market. A bounce back in the tech shares lifted up China's main stock indexes on Wednesday as a private survey showed faster service sector growth, but worries over surging COVID-19 cases weighed on sentiments, keeping gains in check. And at the close, the Shanghai Composite Index was up 0.85%. The blue chip CSI 300 index rose 0.90%. Let's move on now to the South Korean market. South Korean shares ended at a near 3-week high on Wednesday, driven by strong foreign inflows into the chip heavyweights, offsetting worries about rising cases of coronavirus Delta variant. The won gained while the benchmark bond yield fell and the KOSPI ended up 1.34%, its highest closing since July 15th, and extending gains to a third straight session. And now let's glance to the markets a little closer to home and check out what's happened on the Australian market. On Wednesday, the Australian market closed 0.4% higher, and the crude oil prices continued their fall for the third straight day following surprise build-ups in the US inventories. Wheel economic data and concerns over fast-spreading coronavirus Delta variants. While the crude fell 3.73%, Brent was at $70.16 US, and the energy stocks such as Woodside Petroleum and Santos could be under pressure on Thursday. The spot gold added 0.1% and the gold futures declined 0.03%. Gold miners including Newcrest Mining and Northern Star Resources could trade higher on Thursday. Chinese coking coal and coke futures ended higher, and the benchmark iron ore futures on the Dalian Bourse edged up 0.5%. On the other hand, however, copper prices eased on as the greenback strengthened and the benchmark copper on the London Metal Exchange fell 0.9%. Thanks so much for your company on that one, viewers, but it is time to wrap up the show. Hope you found it informative and keep watching 𝐊𝐴𝐴𝐼𝐴 TV as we bring you the latest news and trending market updates live from Sydney. We'll be back with the early trades show and also bringing you the market open information and relevant stocks to you as soon as possible. Sage signing off.